Muscatine City Council will please come to order. We'll start this evening with a roll call. Please, Greg Monsager.
Councilmember Lang.
Present.
Councilmember Roby.
Present.
Bynum.
Present.
Shahade.
Present.
Natvig.
Present.
Fitzgerald.
Present.
Lorette.
Present.
All present, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Greg. And thank you, everyone, for joining us in council chambers this evening. We will start with a Writers Club presentation. We'll start with Greg.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a quick follow-up to our last meeting. You've got a memo in the packet. I guess the conclusion of the last meeting, we thought we'd come forward with some additional information. This is a recommendation from the city attorney, should we wish to proceed, would be to simply address the fee section of the ordinance and to add an additional category under the fee section. So essentially we would add we would have split it into two categories for taxi cabs. We'd have a for-profit and a 501c3 or not-for-profit category. The taxi cab portion, the for-profit portion would stay the same with the same fees and insurance. And under the not-for-profit or 501c3 portion, we would have a separate fee, but we would still maintain the insurance requirements per the ordinance. And that fee could simply be $1, it could be $5, but really the intent is to get the company or the individual to bring to come into City Hall to fill out the application and to make sure that they have insurance on that particular vehicle. That was the attorney's recommendation on how to proceed if we wish to proceed. I guess the question becomes, does the council wish to proceed? We're not looking for action tonight, as you know, it's at an in-depth session, but we are looking for, or I'm looking for a little direction from the City Council on whether or not we wish to proceed and move forward with an ordinance at our next regular meeting. It's a pretty simple adjustment if you wish to proceed, so I guess I was just looking for a little feedback tonight on whether or not to proceed.
Okay, thank you very much, Greg. Anybody have any questions or comments?
The question I have is, I mean, we don't, what was brought up at the last meeting is we really don't currently have anyone licensed as a taxi cab right now. So there's no revenue coming into that. And now we're talking about splitting off and having yet another ordinance or scheduled fee in the schedule and we're not using the one already. We'd only have one on the other one. Wouldn't it be easier to just change the fee in the existing ordinance rather than creating a new one?
It's funny that you mentioned that. I had a call this afternoon from an individual who is planning to come in and actually fill out a taxi cab license, not for traditional taxi cab service, but actually for a similar service to what we're talking about here tonight, although we're talking about a business, a for-profit business. They would be doing doctor appointments, discharges from the hospital, after-hour nursing home, similar type of service, but as a for-profit or a business. And they'd be required to fill out the same application for the same annual license that we require presently. And I really think the distinction is that we have the distinction is solely between profit and not profit, and that's the only reason that he's recommended to go the direction that we've gone. And whether you're profit or not profit, we're still recommending that you maintain insurance. For liability, et cetera, for the carrying of those passengers.
Oh, well, absolutely.
So,
I mean, that goes without saying.
Right.
Is there really a necessity for the city to have proof that they have liability insurance?
We regulate.
Are they going to come back? Could a citizen injured in a vehicle owned by a taxi cab service come back on the city because we gave them a permit and we don't have a requirement, or maybe the requirement is there but we didn't get a certificate that they have insurance? Are we liable?
We didn't address liability with the city attorney. However, oftentimes the city is named just simply because we have deep pockets. Doesn't matter whether or not it's there's liability there or not, the city is oftentimes named, and we still have to defend, or our insurance carrier has to defend that case. I can certainly discuss that with the city attorney prior to moving forward. We regulate multiple businesses, restaurants for, we have multiple permits. And it mainly, the main reason in my mind is purely for public safety. And in this case, we're ensuring that those companies have proper, or are properly insured based on our standards to operate within the city limits.
Okay, as another option, we could consider not looking at profit versus nonprofit, because frankly, like I said last time, whether it's for profit or not for profit, they're still charging the client. So as far as the client's concerned, they don't really care whether it's for profit or not. They're still paying. So they both look like a profit business.
Right. Yeah, and we don't regulate, of course. The state of Iowa regulates that piece along with the IRS. We don't regulate that portion, and that was my concern I mentioned last time, or in this particular case, is that an annual fee and a mileage fee is being charged. So, in my mind, at least it didn't look like a not-for-profit, although it may qualify under state regulations.
So my other suggestion would be to leave the $30 in there for a fee for a vehicle, but then we could add another sentence that said that for additional vehicles it'd be $5 a piece.
That's certainly another way to do it.
That way, if a taxi cab service comes in, if they're going to run 10 vehicles, they're going to pay $30 and then $5 for every vehicle thereafter.
I like that.
Instead of separate, you're saying.
Rather than saying
category.
you got a
Profit, no.
not-for-profit or profit.
Yeah. If we did go to the separate non-for-profit, you've already answered the major concern is that the insurance would still have to,
Right.
proof of insurance, but there's a lot of different ways we could go here, it looks like.
There are. This is just one recommendation based on the conversation we had last week and relaying that with the city attorney.
I would think that if there's going to be a for-profit group, that they're going to charge a lot more than the nonprofit group for the taxi rides. I see that as a difference if they're doing it for profit. I like the idea of having the new category to keep them separate, but it would work with Phil's idea too, I suppose. The main thing is this is a valuable service to offer to seniors. I'd like to give them a chance to try it.
Greg, I am certainly in favor of your proposal of separating profit versus not-for-profit. And I certainly recognize Councilman Phil's example that maybe we should just leave it alone. But I think starting off that we can always change it, but that not-for-profit, if we don't charge them anything, I think that would be an asset in with their business to be able to get started and go. But definitely the ones that are there to make a profit, yes, they should be paying the fee.
My only thought is, whether it's, $0, $1, or $5, there's still time involved in processing the application. Do we want to recover that time or not?
And I also agree that they should have that proof of insurance of some sort. It should be on file.
I'll follow up with agreeing with Phil's recommendation on the $30 with the $5 for each vehicle thereafter with the proof of insurance. There's a fee associated with the time used for the processing of the work. Then we're not separating. We're not having to determine whether it's the for-profit or non-profit. I like Phil's idea, so I support that idea.
Good. Is there anyone here that would like to address this issue? Yes, would you do so in 3 minutes or less?
Ann Green with Riders Club of Muscatine. And personally, I see the value and the point in everything you're saying. I like the idea myself of the separating them only because of the fact that because we have volunteers and volunteers are going to come and go, it's going to be very hard for me to keep up with making payments because the volunteers aren't paid. And being nonprofit, if I had to come in like 3 times a week and give you $5 here and there and then they quit in 2 days, that's the only that's the only unsettlement that I have about it. Other than that, the need for the insurance is just, that's not even questionable to me. It has to be done, and that's really, I'm waiting to clear this up. We've got our insurance agent waiting with the underwriter to get that all done anyway, so I'm comfortable with that, and I think that that's right. I just wanted to throw in and remind you that in the process of all this, it's very difficult. The $30 with the 5 is even a very good idea. My concern is just when it comes down to our volunteers. If I get somebody that drives for me 3 times and then quits, and I've paid for them, and I do that 50,000 times, that's just where it's starting to get a little financially burdensome to me. And that's just for your consideration as well, just to remind you. So thank you.
One question for you,
please.
if I may. Riders of America, it's the day out of Cedar Rapids
Yes,
right
sir.
now.
Yes, sir.
And you are a charter of that, or?
I am not a franchise. I'm just starting on my own, and I will be Riders Club of Muscatine, and I will be the director.
And do you have a P&L sheet that,
I have my EIN number. Right now, I'm in process with my 501c3. It should almost be getting done. He's taking care of some paperwork with that, and I also have my articles of incorporation are completed. And I've got, like I said, our insurance agents are waiting to write up our insurance. So we're just waiting on our 501c3, and it should be done by the middle of the month, so.
thank you.
Yes,
Any
sir.
other questions? Council,
Yeah,
yes. Scott.
one of your correspondents mentions that Cedar Rapids, in fact, entered into such an agreement, the city of Cedar Rapids, or I saw something.
There's a Riders Club of America in Cedar Rapids,
Yeah.
and he began that a couple years ago, and I just decided to do one down here.
Okay. That was my question, how long had been going up there?
2 years, yes, sir.
Anything else, council?
I just find it's unusual that someone else is trying to offer a similar service, knowing that these folks have come with this nonprofit approach. So I wonder how sincere or how serious that question that you received should be taken about for-profit.
I really don't have any way of answering that. I can tell you that they're a local hospital employee, that they've worked with the chamber as well.
So you have some names or a name?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else, council? Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank you, sir.
Green. We do appreciate it. Council, Greg is looking for some sort of a direction concerning this issue. Anyone having an idea here or a presentation?
Well, I like Phil's idea.
Okay. You understand Phil's idea? You need it explained.
Nope, I'm good.
You're good? Is that agreeable, council? Everybody? No? Yes?
Well,
Let me see. Those are in favor. Let me see your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
7.
I'll go.
7, slow 7 there. Okay, so you have a direction now, and you will proceed when? Starting next meeting or later on?
We should have it at our next meeting.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for being here.
And receiving the 501c pending that, I mean.
That won't have any bearing on this.
It would, that's correct. It wouldn't have any bearing under Phil's proposal. There's only one category.
Just treat them all like
Okay.
tax, any cabbie.
Okay with you?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on. The next item on tonight's agenda, GIS sign inventory update. Greg.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have a presentation tonight, actually 3 presentations regarding the use of our GIS system and Magic. Our first presenter tonight is one of our equipment operators, Tammy King, and she's going to start things off tonight on our sign inventory with GIS, and then we also have Randy Howell and Mark Warren.
Well, Mr. Mayor, council members, as Greg said, my name is Tammy King. I'm an equipment operator out at Public Works. My assistant tonight on the computer is going to be Mark Warren. He's our Magic Manager, Magic GIS Manager. Randy Hill's asked me to be here tonight to do our, show you a little bit about our sign inventory. In 1980, Public Works started putting their sign inventory on cards. And up to that date, we didn't have any way of keeping any records or knowing where our signs were. They were just kind of in the guy's head out of Public Works. Well, this is the card that we used to keep them on. And 20 years later, we've got filing cabinets full of these cards. So in 2004, Public Works hired a college student, and with the guidance of Magic and Matt Chandler, the paper records were converted to a computerized GIS program. After it was set up and the college student was gone, they needed someone to enter the data to maintain the records. That's kind of where I came in. I inherited that job and been doing it since 2005. So I'd like to show you a few of the features of the sign inventory. The black dots on the screen up here represent an inactive location. By that I mean there isn't a sign there anymore. There used to be one, but we kind of keep it for history records. The red dots represent all the signs within the city of Muscatine. As you can all see, we have a lot of signs. We have over 5,565 signs that add to our sign pollution. I'm using the word pollution because when you put too many signs up, people just kind of start ignoring them. One of the advantages of using GIS with all these signs is we're now able to view all of them, all of the sign locations on a map. Each of the red dots on that map stores information. By clicking on one of the dots, it opens a table that shows information that pertains to that location. The active table stores the location information, and it shows the installation date. That would be the time that we went out and actually put an assembly up, a post and the sign. And it also shows us how many signs are in that assembly. In this case, there's only one. If we expand out the table, there are 3 more tables underneath that stores more information. The first one is a sign table. And with that sign table, it has information on the installation date of the sign. It has the face type of it, the backing type. It tells us the height that the sign is mounted, the condition of the sign, how old the sign is, the dimensions, and we can also look at a picture of the sign. This computer's a little slow. It's pretty old. It's been doing this as long as I have. Okay. We originally used a combination of generic pictures and photos to get the images of the signs. One of our goals is to have photos of the entire assembly to put in the inventory and on the website to make it a little easier for other city departments to view what's actually there. I'm currently working on that project with the Magic staff, and Mark's going to talk to you a little bit about that later. The second table is a support table. It shows the installation date of the support, and it also shows the type of post that the sign's mounted on. I think you're on the wrong side, Mark. You're ruining my flow here.
Are you in Muscatine?
There we go.
City.
Okay. This was mounted on a utility post. We put this one on a power and water pole. These days we try to save a nickel and dime everywhere we can, so if we can piggyback on with them, we're going to. Of course we did this with their permission. We don't just randomly go out and stick things on their property. The third table is a maintenance records table. This particular one doesn't have any records, which means we just haven't been back there since we installed the sign. If it did have a record, it would show the reason that we went there to work, and it would also show us what work was done there. With all this data, the sign crew can find any information they need from the map. If we have a report of a post with a missing sign, we can quickly find it on the map. And with this new technology, it just takes us seconds. We used to dig through cards trying to find the information because there was no way to geographically sort the sign locations. The crew can then load the truck with all the material needed to replace the sign without going to the location. So we're cutting down on time and saving fuel by doing this. By having the signs on a map, we can look at any street and visually see how many signs are on it. If we ever need to reset any of the signs, for example, let's say we have a construction project going on, we're going to completely do Claremont Street. A contractor removes all the signs, which they've done before. Hershey would be a good example. We can find the street on the map. We can add text to the map, which I've done on this one, and it shows what all the signs are that are on that map. We can then add imagery to it. And you can actually see the sign there. You can see the shadow of it in the post. You can see where these signs are actually located on our map. We can give the layout to the sign crew so he can reset the signs and they can put them, right where they're supposed to be. We could also find the exact location by using a GPS unit, but as of right now, our department doesn't have one. Locating these cards would be another time-consuming job, and like I said, with GIS, it just takes us minutes. Sign life is usually around 15 years. With this program, we can calculate the age of a sign, and we can easily find the locations on the map. There's 2,383 signs that are over 15 years old. That's 42% of our sign inventory. This information helps the supervisor when it comes to budgeting for maintenance. He can look at all the signs over 15 years old and decide how many he can afford to replace. He can narrow it down because he's probably not going to replace 2,000 signs in a year. He can narrow it down and look for a particular type of sign, let's say stop signs older than 15 years. There are only 84 of those, so he may replace all those if they are needed. This database is also useful to the traffic committee. There may be times when they want to know if a sign was involved in an accident. They can click on a button and they can see if the sign was worked on because of an accident. All those little stars on there are a sign that was involved in an accident. A car hit it or, in some respect. They may want to know why a sign was replaced 5 times in less than a month. We can look at the maintenance records that we have. And that will tell us, why it was replaced. Each one of these, as you're going to see, says vandalism. Someone really didn't want that sign there when we put it up. Well, it got to be a challenge to see who was going to win. Well, the sign's still there. So I guess we won that battle. We can also see where the council has made decisions regarding a sign. I know the council's made more decisions than what's showing here on this map, but this is all the information I have. They provide the information, I can add it to the map, but this is all I have right now on it. We don't track any of the reasons that the council's made a decision on it, but we could if you wanted us to. This is just a few ways that we use this program. Currently, the sign crew brings in the information to the office and I enter it in there. We're collecting so much data that at some point we'll need to invest in a laptop for the sign crew to take out in the field. That's briefly a explanation of one of the projects my department does with GIS, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Randy Howell.
Good evening. My name is Randy Howell. My title is the Street Maintenance Supervisor out of Public Works. I'm here to talk about the retroreflectivity. As you can see on our stop signs, it goes from very dull to bright into brighter, and that's pretty much what this is about. The retroreflectivity basically is how light is reflected off that sign back to the driver. And like nighttime driving, despite the lower volumes in traffic, 50% or more fatal crashes occur at night after the sun goes down. So that was one of the reasons that we are involved in this retroreflectivity and the updating of our signs. Back in 2003, the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control introduced new language establishing the minimum retroreflectivity levels that have to be maintained on our traffic signs. As of January 22, 2012, the city has to have a plan in place to establish and implement a sign assessment or a management method to maintain the minimum levels of our sign retroreflectivity. January 2015, that is the date that's coming up that you will see when we talk about budgets. That is a compliance date for our regulatory warning and our ground-mounted guide signs. Now, just to kind of give you an example, Mark, you should have a slide for this. As we look at this compliant date, and as it gets closer, we have 1,022 signs over 15 years of age that will have to meet that compliance date. If we go back to our old card system, we'd be looking through files, cabinets, everything, trying to identify the signs, and then turn around, figure out the age of them. Then we'd have to send an operator out, try to verify that what sign is there, look at it, let us know whether it needs replaced or not. Well, with the GIS, what this does, it enables us to in just a matter of minutes, go to the GIS layer. We can actually look it up. We can compile a list with this database system in just a matter of minutes. We can see the sign right from our computer instead of driving out, trying to find them, figure out what they are. We can take a look at them. We can get our list, and that should just really help us with our budgetary system and trying to figure out how many signs there are that have to be replaced, put a cost to that, and then I'm hoping that in the next, what we'll see is in the next 3 years, this year in 12, 13, and 14, we'll figure out how many signs have to be replaced. I want to bring them in over a 3-year period, so that also with our 15-year average life, we're not stuck replacing 1,022 signs over just a 1-year period. So the database is just amazing on what it can do for us, and it's just truly a help here with manpower and all the requirements that we have to have out of Public Works with our potholes and snow removal and just all the things that go on during the year on all of our projects. So it has really been just a huge help to us. The next date that will be coming up that we will see during budgets 2, January of 2018, this database will help us put together the replacement of our signs, our street name sign markers. And being that once we get through our 2015 budgetary system and get our regulatory signs, then 2015, 16, and 17, we'll try to phase in a cost to replace all of our street name marker signs. So it's just a great help out there. And I thank you for Tammy for putting this together, and Mark and GIS. Magic helping us get everything figured out and getting this layer put together. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mark Warren. He's our Magic GIS manager. He'll speak a little bit about what the future holds.
Well, again, good evening, Mayor and council members, staff, and my 2 Magic Governing Board members here tonight. Basically, up until a couple of years ago, the way we tried to disseminate a lot of this Magic data that we've been creating over the last decade is we had really two methods to do it. One way was the way we just showed with all the work that Tammy's been doing. And so you had, in order to do that, you had to actually have GIS software on your desktop, installed on your desktop. The other way to do it is, and many of you are probably familiar with this, is you could go out on the web to the Magic Beacon website. When most people think of Magic, that's all they know about Magic is that Beacon website, which is very handy, very useful tool for the community. But those are the two ways to do it. The desktop software gives you full access to all the GIS data we've developed over the years, whereas the website, the Beacon website, just kind of gives you a narrow view of just parcel property related GIS information. And so it's kind of limited in that sense. Now what we've done since about January of 2010 was we came up with a third way to try to start providing this data to people such as department managers, council members, county board members, let's say front office staff. We've come out with the company that makes this software that we use has come up with a server package to help actually serve up a lot of the mapping that we do. And so what I'm gonna tease you with here a little bit is an application that Mark Yarrington has put together here recently. And so this is kind of a hybrid. So in a way, you can get to this now. This is just a web browser we're looking at. So you don't need any software on your desktop at all. So it's more or less free to the user, the end user. And yet what we can do with it is we can really customize it to show a lot more data than what the current Beacon site shows. So in this case, Tammy, we were showing you all these different the sign inventory on the desktop software. And so Mark's going to show you that same data more or less right now. We've kind of zoomed in on Demarest Street, Demarest and Sampson down south end of town. And all the little red dots you can see there. Yeah, there you go. Point to those. Again, there's our signs. So that's all the sign inventory we were looking at for the whole city. In this case, we've just kind of zoomed in. And as we showed you on the desktop, you could click and actually see what that sign looked like. Well, here's another, and this is what Tammy was talking about. What she wants to do is go out to each sign and actually take a picture of it out in the field and then make that available either on the desktop or through an application like this. So it's just kind of a perfect example where, let's say a public works manager or somebody could be using this and he could zoom in. And that's our new 2010 photography in the background, which is really nice and clear and crisp. And Mark, why don't you just pan around a little bit or just kind of show them how quick everything kind of responds. So here we've got several gigabytes of software. What's nice right now is we implemented this server software in 2 phases. So right now we're still in phase 1. And what that involved was getting the city and the county and MPW all connected to our server. And our server is located out there at MPW's facility. So right now we're working off a private network, basically. So the public does not have access to this yet. And so what we want to do starting in July of 2012, the beginning of the next budget year, is to go ahead and we've got money budgeted for an internet server. And so at that point then, we can open up a lot of these custom applications that we want to build, make it available to different groups in the community, like anybody who's interested in historic buildings, anybody that wants to see, I don't know, there's probably about 100 different things we could think of that we could do, and we could customize it for the general public. Or we can password protect it as well if there are certain features like you might want to turn the, let's see, I don't know if utilities are available yet. They're not available yet, right? Yeah, you don't have those yet. But things like the water system, the sewer system, although MPW's electric system to some extent, we could display all that on one of these maps here. So we can customize it quite a bit, and it's fast. And it relies on our ability to do programming, web programming. So And that's what we're learning. He's got to be pretty good at it here in the last couple of years. So I just wanted to kind of give you an idea then that this is what's coming down the road. And we hope it'll open up GIS to a lot more people inside local government, as well as to private sector and the general citizenry of Muscatine. Thank you.
Anywhere? Okay. Is that the blue and the green? Yeah. Which is which?
Blue storm, green sand.
What's the red?
Red's force main.
Okay.
It's cool.
That's right. And we saw that earlier, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But this program is not available as a web program at this time, correct?
Not to the general public, but anybody on the city network or the county network or out at MPW has access. So again, this was phase one, which was to get it implemented, make sure we could get all our consortium members connected to it with Power and Water's fiber optic network. I don't know how many of you realize this, but you know, Muscatine County for years used somebody other than Muscatine Power and Water as their internet service provider. So for that reason, it made doing the centralized server access kind of difficult. So that's why we did this phase one, where we set up a private network. They could still have their regular internet service provider, the county could, but they could also have a connection to the private network through Power and Water, and that's what they did. That's what the county did, and that's what made this happen. What else is interesting is that since they did that, the county has now decided that Power and Water's had some changes in pricing, and they've upgraded their equipment on the fiber optic network, and so now they're very competitive with other internet service providers. So the county has switched, and so now MockLink is the county's internet service provider, which is kind of a nice little thing that's happened as kind of a side benefit of this project.
Any other questions, council?
Yes, wasn't there at a time that you started working with Park and Rec to determine where all the trees were and the kinds in our community?
Oh yes, and so Parks and Rec right now, we do have some basic web applications. There's a city application, a county application, MPW application. And this one that we're looking at right now, this is the newest viewer that the company that makes our software. It's the newest version, so we haven't had a lot of time to play with it. But like I said, we've already had the previous version has been available to city, county, and so anyhow, they've been able to use that for a while. So the Parks and Recs has the web link. They can access all that. And they could be, I don't know if they're doing it right now or not. The 50 scale imagery, when you zoom in, I mean, you can't make out what kind of tree it is, but you can definitely tell where that tree is. And so it's a good way, it'd be a great way for them to build their tree inventory if they plan on doing that. So.
And I think one of the things and why that question came up was as we add trees to our corridors in Muscatine, so they're not so close to the power line, or underground utilities and so forth. So this is awesome how that all works.
Well, yeah,
together.
So the underground stuff, you'll be able to see that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's neat.
And we're working with Power and Water right now, trying to improve the spatial accuracy of a lot of their water facilities, and they, every time a new line gets buried, they GPS that so it's more accurate, and so it'll match up with this real well. So
that was why they went out and they painted all their water things blue this last time they did the flyover. Right. So they were more readily, they weren't just out doing it just for fun. They were out doing it so that on this imagery, you could actually see those blue spots and they'd know where they're.
Right there.
Yeah, why don't you zoom in? Can you zoom in a little bit? That's it. Okay. Yeah. So there's a limit, right?
Yeah.
If you had the capability to really zoom in, which we're kind of limited right here, you could really see it pretty clearly. So, and we did some testing on that. We found out that with our survey grade GPS unit versus, picking it off the ortho versus actually going out and surveying it, You know, the ortho's within about 8 inches of where the survey grade is. I think that's good enough for locating water valves. So.
Any other questions, council?
It's great information. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It is, Greg, anything else before we go to comments?
Nope, but all three individuals are certainly available for questions if you have any. Otherwise, that's all we have for tonight.
I had a question for Tammy. That 5,564 signs, does that include street signs, or is that just the?
Like the
That's all signs.
naming the street, Mulberry, Ash.
Like an intersection? Okay.
And I also had another question for Tammy. Why would you need, you mentioned that the signs indicated for accidents. Why would you need to keep track of whether a sign was in an accident?
Just something that we could easily do, so I don't know. Randy Hill might be able to answer that question better than me.
Sometimes we do it for liability purposes. If you have something in the right of way and someone hits it, they could become an issue.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons. The example we showed you where we had to replace one 5 times in a month, you know, that individual is now making signs and license plates for 30 years of community service, we hope. So,
Point made.
yes, that's,
Okay.
but it's data that's available. And it's interesting, I'm listening to this and did watch the rehearsal, and things never go the way they do in rehearsal. Tammy was supposed to introduce Mark as her lovely assistant, and she didn't. But I think that what we want to demonstrate is, how much we are using Magic, how we are now making this data work for us instead of just collecting it, which we did in the past. Paper files, cards, old technology is very much up to speed. I believe in January we're planning on showing you another Magic GIS demonstration of our route system for Muscabus and how Mark and Mark have helped in that regard. And we are shooting for sometime in spring, probably May or June, to give you a much bigger demonstration of our roadway maintenance layer, which signs is just one element of that. It's a much larger database, a lot of information off of it, a lot of things that we can use it for in the future. So my compliments to Tammy, Randy, and the Marks brothers, and so any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Randy, and thanks, people. Thank you very much. Good job. It is time for council comments. We'll start with Mark.
I have nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil?
I'm just happy to see the Magic staff out and about. A lot of people know about Magic, but they don't know who's behind it. And it's nice to see them out. People can associate their face with the name now, so that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Scott?
Nothing, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Osama?
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay. Bob Bynum?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Good. Diane?
I attended a Blue Zone meeting this morning, and remember when we were all walking for Blue Zone to indicate miles to improve our healthy community? And that's one of the things I'm sure you can find on our Magic site is where the trails are. But anyway, what I'd like to share with you is a week from tonight at 5:15 to 6:30 at the school board office on Mulberry, there's going to be a public forum about the Blue Zone and the direction where our community, where the project's going to go. And there will be some different initiatives that you can talk about. For example, if you have an interest in grocery store and cooking classes to be healthy in our community, there will be a table there. You can have some input to how you think our community would like to improve. Or if you are interested in school policy on safe routes to school, there will be a table there to share that kind of information. Or again, on neighborhood gatherings and how those different initiatives can be healthy in our community. So a week from tonight, 5:15 to 6:30, then you can still get to council meeting, and we'd like to hear your input from anybody in our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Diane. Jerry?
I just want to thank the two Randys for improving the railroad crossing on Washington Street after we thought the railroad had improved it.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
I have nothing. Is there a motion to
So
adjourn? Council is adjourned.
Merry Christmas, Phil.